The gunshot cracked through the still afternoon air like thunder rolling across the lake. And in that split second, my world collapsed. My brother Ben went down right in front of me, blood seeping into the dirt outside our family's cabin. And the man who fired stood there in a fake police uniform, calm as if he'd just swatted a fly. All of it, every ounce of this nightmare, had the fingerprints of the HOA president, Linda, plastered all over it, because she couldn't stand the idea that we wouldn't bow down to her control. I should back up, because on paper, none of this should have happened. That cabin on Clearwater Lake has been in my family for years, tucked away from the city noise. The one place where life feels simple and real. Ben and I drove up there one Saturday, eager to fish, maybe crack a few beers on the porch, just soak in the peace. Except peace doesn't exist when Linda, the so-called Queen of White Pines Shores HOA, decides she wants your land under her thumb. She'd been after us for months, mailing fake dues, dropping fines in our mailbox that weren't worth the paper they were printed on. And every time we said no, her smile grew thinner, her threats sharper. "You're not above the rules here," she'd hiss, even though our property wasn't part of her HOA at all. I laughed it off at first, Ben too. He said, "She's just barking. Don't let her get to you." But that Saturday, when the black SUV rolled up our gravel drive, my gut dropped. The man who stepped out wore a police uniform, badge glinting, gun at his hip. But something about him screamed wrong. His shoes were scuffed. His belt didn't fit right. His eyes darted like he was acting a role he hadn't rehearsed enough. He marched right up to Ben. "Benjamin Carter?" he barked. Ben, calm as always, nodded. "Yeah, that's me. What's this about?" And then, without warning, the guy drew his gun, pointing it at Ben's chest. "Get on the ground!" His voice was sharp, but shaky underneath. I froze. I swear my legs were cement. Everything about the scene was wrong. This wasn't an arrest. This was an execution waiting to happen. Ben didn't flinch, though. Didn't so much as twitch. He looked that man dead in the eye and asked, "Who sent you?" And in that moment, I knew too. This wasn't about some warrant. This wasn't about a traffic ticket. This was Linda's handiwork. The man's radio crackled, a low voice spilling through. "Target located. Finish it." And then the gun went off. The sound ripped through me. Ben staggered back, clutching his side, and fell. My scream split the air as I dropped to my knees, pressing my hands against his chest, blood soaking my palms. The fake cop smirked, muttered, "Just business." And for the first time in my life, I felt true hatred boil up inside me. Here's the ugly part. I almost gave up. I stared at Ben, pale, barely breathing, and the thought slammed into me. Maybe we should have just paid the damn HOA fee. Maybe resisting wasn't worth it. Maybe this was all my fault. I hated myself for thinking it. But grief and fear twist you like that. I actually whispered, "I'm sorry. Maybe we should have gone along." And the shame of it burned through me. But then I saw Ben's face, still stubborn even in pain. And I realized, no, we weren't wrong. Linda was. She wanted control so badly, she'd hired a gunman to take my brother out. That wasn't power. That was rot. Before the man could finish the job, another car screeched into our drive. A tall figure stepped out. Sharp suit, eyes blazing. I recognized him instantly. Congressman Daniel Rowe. I'd seen him on TV, shaking hands and cutting ribbons, but never in my wildest dreams did I think he'd show up at our lake house. "Step away from him," Rowe commanded, his voice carrying the kind of authority you don't fake. The fake cop froze, muttered, "This wasn't part of the plan." And for the first time I saw fear flicker across his face. Turns out Rowe knew Ben, my brother, the guy who taught me how to bait a hook and fix a carburetor, had been digging into HOA corruption on the side, gathering files and names, and he'd stumbled onto something massive. Linda wasn't just slapping fines on neighbors for leaving trash cans out, she was funneling money through shell accounts, cutting backroom deals with developers, and using HOA dues like her personal piggy bank. Ben had proof, and that made him dangerous. From that moment, everything spiraled. We got Ben to the hospital. Thank God. Though he was hanging by a thread. I sat by his bed, replaying it all, drowning in questions. Who was protecting us? Who was playing both sides? And most of all, how far would Linda go to shut us up? The answer came fast. That night, at a so-called safe house, we heard tires crunch outside, then heavy boots on the porch. A dozen men, armed, ready to finish what the fake cop started. My heart pounded as we barricaded the doors. Congressman Rowe and a couple security guys hustling Ben into the back. I heard one of the attackers shout through the window, "The president wants him gone tonight." And then, like a knife cutting through fog, it clicked. They meant Linda. She wasn't hiding in the shadows anymore. She was commanding this assault. When the front door crashed open, chaos erupted. Gunfire tore through the living room, splinters flying, men shouting. I ducked low, heart in my throat, as Rowe returned fire, yelling for me to stay down. My hands shook, but my mind was strangely calm. I wasn't thinking about myself anymore, just about keeping Ben alive. They wanted to drag him out like cargo, erase him because he'd dared to expose the queen of White Pines shores. And then she appeared, Linda herself, striding into the house behind her enforcers, floral blouse pressed crisp, lips curled into that smug little smirk I knew too well. This land, this cabin, this whole lake belongs under HOA authority. She spat. "You Carters don't get to defy me." I wanted to laugh in her face, but all I could do was stare, blood roaring in my ears. Congressman Rowe didn't back down. He pointed right at her, voice booming over the chaos. "Linda Pierce, you're finished. We have enough evidence to bury you and your board twice over," she sneered. "You think the law will touch me? I run this neighborhood." But right then, real sirens split the night. Red and blue lights flashed outside, and actual county deputies stormed in. The fake cop and Linda's crew froze, weapons dropping to the floor as the officers barked orders. Linda's face went from smug to sickly pale in seconds. They cuffed the fake cop first, reading him his rights as he scowled. Then they turned to Linda. She kicked, screamed, shouted about her position, but the deputy just tightened the cuffs and said flatly, "You're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder." Watching her dragged across the floor, her heels scraping against the wood she thought she owned, was the sweetest silence I'd ever heard. I stood there, shaking, blood on my clothes, but for the first time all day, I breathed easy. Ben was alive. The tyrant was in chains. And I, just an ordinary woman who wanted to fish with her brother, had seen exactly how far greed and control could twist a person like Linda. As they loaded her into the cruiser, she turned once, eyes burning with hate, and I held her gaze. No words passed between us. She knew she'd lost. I knew it too. And that quiet, that final look, was more satisfying than any cheer or celebration could ever be. That night, with sirens fading into the distance, I pressed my hand to Ben's and whispered. We stood our ground. It wasn't over for him yet. He still had a fight to heal. But at least the shadow looming over our family was gone. And if there's one thing I learned staring down an HOA president who thought she owned the world, it's this. You can bully, threaten, even send fake cops with guns. But the truth has a way of tearing down the biggest walls. That's the kind of story we tell here. On HOA Drama Unfolded.